Hello students, good morning, good evening and good night. Welcome to this lecture. This is the second lecture on redox reaction chapter. In this lecture we will be discuss regarding the redox reaction in terms of the transfer of the electrons from in the reactions. We know already that redox reaction is basically those reactions where we will find both the oxidation and the reduction reaction is going on simultaneously. To understand the electron transfer process in these redox reactions, first let us understand some reactions for proceed. So today's heading of this lecture this is KK Mukherjee in the Science with Mukherjee YouTube channel. So let us first understand some redox reaction. You can understand these three reactions. They are basically, you can say, redox reaction. Why they are redox reaction? You can easily understand. In the first one, you can see that chlorine, electronegative element chlorine, it attached to the sodium. In the classic idea of the oxidation, what we find? We find when there is the addition of the electronegative element to other substance, then we call it is oxidation. The substance is oxidized. So here sodium is oxidized. We can write Na is oxidized on account of there is a addition of the chlorine. And at the same time you will find, now we are recap the definition of the reduction. What is that? Now that is the addition of the electropositive element to any substance. This is the substance chlorine. Now it will add the sodium is add to the chlorine. That is why you can understand that sodium chloride is formed. So at that time we can see chlorine is oxidized. Cl2 is reduced. Why it is reduced? Because there is a addition of the electropositive element, that is sodium. So we can understand easily this reaction. In this reaction you can see both the reduction oxidation process, sodium is oxidized and the chlorine is reduced. You can write this is oxidized and this is reduced. In the similar way, you can observe the same thing here also. Here also sodium is oxidized. Why? Because the oxygen is added to the sodium. Oxidized plus oxygen is reduced. Here also you can see sodium is oxidized plus that is sulfur is reduced. Why it is so? Now that is already discussed as per the classical definition of the oxidation and the reduction. Now we understand from our previous knowledge in the atomic bonding what we find, and this sodium chloride, sodium oxide and sodium sulfate. All these compounds are basically ionic compound. So better we can write this sodium we can write this way, that is Na plus Cl minus. That is the better representation because it is an ionic product and they will present practically in ions. In the same way you can represent this sodium oxide as and in the same way we can represent this sodium sulfide as this. So they are basically the ionic compound. So we can able to write this equation in a different way, in the way of the electron transfer. We can understand in the ionic compound there is a transfer of the electron from the one species to the other species. One species will lose the electron and other species will accept that electron. Okay, so we can write this equation in this way. So here you can see the sodium lose the electron. Sodium is 2 electron. 2 electron lose by this sodium. And this 2 electron will be accepted by this chlorine. So we can write 2 gain. 2 electron is gained by chlorine gas and 2 electrons lose by the sodium. Okay. The same way we can write also this. Third equation you can see that here sodium again is lose 2 electron lose by the sodium and the 2 electrons the gain by the, so we can lose 2 electron loss and is a 2 electron gain. So from this electron transfer reaction we can understand that sodium in the first reaction sodium lose 2 electrons and that electron is gained by the chlorine. In the second reaction also 4 electron has been lost by the sodium and there is a gain of 4 electrons by the oxygen atoms. Reaction also observed that is the 4 electrons has been lost by the sodium and the 4 electrons that is gained by the oxygens. In the third also we can observe the same thing, that sodium lose 2 electron and sulfur that lost electron has been gained by this. So we can easily understand that electron transfer in this formation of this compound, that is the ionic compound. Now if we closely see these reactions, what we find? Now this reaction has been completed in the 2 steps. In one step there is a loss of electron has been lost by this one of the species, and other step this lost electron has been gained by the other species. So we will take the example of the sodium chloride, formation of sodium chloride. So what we find? Now here first Na, that is 1 sodium, 2 sodium atom, discharge 2 electrons, and this is the one reaction, reaction 1 suppose, and second reaction the chlorine gas, this is solid and this is gas, and the chlorine gas, what you find that it will gain these 2 electrons, so we can write chlorine gas plus 2 electrons, that will be given by 2Cl minus. So when we add these two equations, we get the overall equation. We get the overall equation. This. So what we get here? We get that there is basically 2 steps in which this reaction is completed, and when we add these 2 steps, it will become the complete step. So in this stage, what we find from the classic idea of the oxidation and reduction, what we find, the sodium is oxidized, chlorine is reduced. But in the electron transfer, we have find that chlorine, sodium is losing electrons, whereas chlorine accept that. So in terms of electron transfer, what we define the oxidation and reduction. Naturally, we will define the oxidation is the process where there is the loss of electron, and reduction is the process where there is a gain of the electron. Now you can understand the classic idea of the oxidation and reduction, and this electron transfer has been correlated to each other, and we come to a new point, new idea of the oxidation and the reduction, and that is a very, very important idea that you need to remember it. So we can write this in a different way, that is oxidation. Oxidation is the release of electron. It is the release of electron. Release of electron, or we can say the losing of electron. Losing of electron. This is called the oxidation process. And what is reduction process? Reduction process. Reduction means it is the gaining of electron. That lost electron has been gained by in this process. That is, it is the gaining of electron. So we can redefine this reduction and oxidation in terms of the electron transfer. Now we can understand when sodium release some electron, means it has been oxidized. But by releasing the electrons, it helps to reduce the other electronegative element, that is the chlorine, oxygen and sulfur. So what we call it? Sodium is a reducing agent. Sodium is a reducing agent, and it is helped to reduce its counterpart, that is chlorine, oxygen and sulfur. So what is the reducing agent? Then another terms come, the reducing agent. Reducing agent is what? Now it is the agent which lost, or you can say which donate which donate electron. By donating this electron, it will help the other species to reduce. And another thing, that means the reducing agent is basically oxidized. In the oxidation process, it loses electron, and thus that lost electron will be accepted by the another species, which basically helps to reduce the other, oxidize the other species. So we can write another thing, that is oxidizing agent. Oxidizing agent is basically the agent which accept electron, and by accept this electron, it will help to oxidize the other species. That is in this example that we observe. So here we understand the electron, we are electron transfer. In terms of the electron transfer, how can define the oxidation process or reduction process, and how we can able to say about the which is the reducing agent and which is the oxidizing agent. Reducing agent himself will be oxidized. At the same time, the species which is reduced, which will help to make the other species oxidized. So it will be oxidizing agent. So what is there? The main crux of this lecture is that we understand how we can able to redefine the oxidation and the reduction in terms of electron transfer. When there is a release of electron or losing of the electron by any species, we will call this species has been oxidized. At the same time, other species which is taking part in the reaction, we will, as it is, because it is accepting that electron, we will call it a reduced, but it will help to oxidize to other species. So we understand a very important concept here. So now take one example. As it appears that every time in the reaction, the one species will donate the electrons and other species will accept. But this is not the case for all the reactions. In some reaction, we can observe that one species that will accept the electrons also, and it also gain the electrons also. And this type of reaction, you will see this. This is a reaction when chlorine is reacted with the NaOH, it will produce sodium hypochlorite and NaCl and 3H2. What do you find? In this case, there is a question is given. Which element lose or gain electrons? Is there any element here that lose or gain? Both the things they are doing. Yes, here the chlorine atom is losing or gaining the electron. That is a special type of reaction that we'll be talking about later when we are discussing the different types of redox reaction. This is the disproportionate reactions. In this reaction, you can see chlorine is accepting, also losing the electrons, and this can be easily be understood. This type of reaction, when it is given, easily understood by a concept that is called the oxidation number. Oxidation number that we will discuss in the next lecture. That is all for today's lecture. Next lecture we will start with a very important concept, that is the oxidation number. If you like this lecture, you can share to your friends. Thank you very much for watching.